From Washington, this is VOA News. Coming up, what to do about the situation in Syria. President Obama remembers a remarkable day 50 years ago. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Norman. The world's major powers met at the United Nations Wednesday to discuss a British-drafted Security Council resolution that would pave the way for military intervention in Syria in response to last week's chemical gas attack that killed hundreds of people. We get more now from VOA's Margaret Besheer at the UN.
Ambassadors from the 5 permanent Security Council members, Britain, China, France, Russia, and the United States, met behind closed doors to discuss the proposed resolution. It would authorize all necessary measures to protect Syrian civilians in the wake of last week's poison gas attack, diplomatic speak for military intervention. The United States and Britain said this week that there is very little doubt President Bashar al-Assad's forces perpetrated the August 21st attack. In Moscow, Deputy Foreign Minister Vladimir Titov told the Interfax news agency that any Security Council reaction would be premature before a UN inspection team presents its report. Margaret Besheer, VOA News, the United Nations.
The United States says it will not allow diplomatic paralysis, as it put it, at the UN, keep it from responding to the chemical attacks in Syria. State Department spokesperson Marie Harf said the United States sees no avenue forward in Syria because of Russian opposition against any meaningful action. Wave of bombings killed at least 51 people in the Iraqi capital. Explosions Wednesday hit mainly Shiite areas of Baghdad. There was no immediate claim of responsibility. Insurgents in Afghanistan launched separate attacks Wednesday targeting U.S.-led coalition forces. Suicide car bomb was detonated outside a base in eastern Ghazni province that hosts U.S. and Polish troops. The blast was followed by a gun battle in which several Polish soldiers were reportedly wounded. Taliban claimed responsibility for the attack. U.S. military jury sentenced an Army psychiatrist to death for intentionally killing 13 fellow soldiers in the 2009 shooting rampage at Fort Hood, Texas, here in the U.S. The jury of 13 officers deliberated a short time Wednesday before handing Major Nidal Hassan, an American-born Muslim, the death sentence. Hassan, who said he switched sides in the U.S. wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, was convicted of the premeditated murders of soldiers being ready for deployment to the 2 war fronts. He says he carried out the attacks to prevent them from attacking Muslim insurgents overseas. UN peacekeeper was killed in Democratic Republic of Congo as the United Nations and Congolese forces battled the rebel group M23. UN spokesperson in New York says the 3 other peacekeepers were wounded in Wednesday's fighting near the eastern city of Goma, which is the capital of North Kivu province. Here in Washington Wednesday, President Obama joined U.S. civil rights pioneers and thousands of others commemorating the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, the historic 1963 demonstration for equal rights that drew more than 250,000 people to the Lincoln Memorial. President Obama, the country's first African-American president, gave the keynote address standing in the same spot where civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Mr. Obama told those gathered that Dr. King gave a mighty voice to the quiet hopes of millions.
Because they marched, America became more free and more fair, not just for African Americans, but for women and Latinos, Asians and Native Americans, for Catholics, Jews and Muslims, for gays, for Americans with disability. America changed for you and for me, and the entire world drew strength from that example.
Former U.S. Presidents Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton also spoke at the Washington event on Wednesday. Firefighters in the U.S. state of California are making slow progress but have contained 23% of a massive wildfire that is threatening Yosemite National Park. Fire has burned more than 725 square kilometers. 4,000 firefighters have been deployed to battle the blaze. More than 100 homes, businesses, and other structures have been destroyed. U.S. stock markets closed slightly higher Wednesday as investors waited for news on the standoff with Syria. Situation there Wednesday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.3%. Standard & Poor's 500 Index rose 0.3%. The Nasdaq Composite finished ahead 0.4%. More stocks rose than fell on the New York Stock Exchange. Get more news by going to our website at voanews.com.